Hi, I'm Greg Dell, and I'm here with attorney Rachel Alters. And today we are going to talk about the Hartford Disability Insurance Company. And Rachel, we know for years that Hartford has been doing these field interview requests. And it's one of their big techniques that they use to frequently deny claims. But I want to talk about the Hartford field interview requests and correlate that with a recent case, a federal court case that was handled by a different law firm, but in which the claimant lost their claim against Hartford based upon what the judge saw. They thought that Hartford acted reasonably. And so let's we'll bounce back and forth talking about the Hartford field interview requests. How often do you see that these do these things, and how does Hartford use video surveillance to their advantage?
This happens all the time, Greg. Unfortunately, Hartford has a track record of performing surveillance on claimants and then catching them in what they seem to call, a lie or inaccuracies by doing a field interview after they've performed the surveillance to find out what the claimant is able to do or not do and whether they're able to work.
So what's the standard protocol that you see for Hartford with regard to a field interview and using video surveillance?
Well, what happens is once a claimant goes on long-term disability with the Hartford, at some point the Hartford's going to go and put video surveillance on the claimant. It could be for one day, it could be for a week, and they will videotape you leaving your house, wherever you're going on your errands, and try and catch you doing things that are inconsistent with what you claimed you could not do on your disability application. So once they obtain this video surveillance, what they'll do is they'll contact the claimant and set up a field interview. And in that field interview, they don't tell you that you've been surveilled, because most people that get followed by a private investigator don't really know they're being followed. During the field interview process, which could last an hour, up to 3 hours, maybe even more, they ask questions specifically gauged towards what you're capable of doing, how long you can sit in a car, what kind of hobbies you have, what kind of activities you can do, and they get specific answers. And then oftentimes during the field interview, what they'll do is after the whole interview is done, they'll say to the claimant, do you swear that all of this information is accurate? They may make them sign something, and then they'll show them the video and say, well, isn't this you? Was this you last week? Didn't you just tell me that you couldn't sit in a car? We have you sitting in a car driving 200 miles when you said you can only travel 5. So these are the kind of things that Hartford does in order to try and trap claimants.
Okay, so let's talk about this recent case. What happened in this particular case, and how did Hartford use the video to their advantage?
So what happened is there was this case where a woman was paid short-term disability from her employer. It rolled over into long-term, and Hartford did pay her for approximately a year. She was a woman who was suffering from fibromyalgia, lupus. She was in a lot of pain, and her doctors were writing, specific notes stating that she couldn't do her occupation due to her illnesses. The Hartford had her on claim for a while. She had a pretty big benefit. I believe it was around $5,000 a month. And in the court case, they had stated that Hartford, if they had paid her over the course of the next 20 years, was going to have to pay close to $500,000 in benefits. So Hartford decided they were going to follow her with surveillance. They actually followed her for 20 hours. They did one
right, over a few days.
They did two different surveillances on her. The first one didn't show much, so they decided to do it again. And they caught her during the second surveillance doing things that they interpreted as inconsistent with what she claimed she wasn't able to do.
Okay, and when do we see that claimants are telling a disability company what they can and can't do? How do claimants communicate that to the companies?
Usually it's during the application process when they're filling out their claim forms and they state, I'm unable to do, drive a certain amount of period, I'm unable to stand for a certain amount of period, sit for a certain amount, and all these things are basically set in stone once they file their application.
Okay, and then we see it a lot in the claimant statements that they have to resubmit,
Right.
Or they go and tell their doctor something they say they can't do, and then the problems obviously come up because then they're caught on video doing something that they said they couldn't do.
Exactly.
So in your case, what did Hartford do?
So what Hartford did was they caught her on surveillance doing things. Then they went and did a field interview at her home for 3 hours. And during the field interview, they never showed her the video, but they asked her all the specific questions about the things that they caught her doing. And she basically denied all of them, saying that she wasn't able to do any of that stuff because she didn't know she was videotaped. After that, Hartford cut her off, and she did a couple appeals, and they still denied her claim, and they ended up in court.
And so what did the lawyer that hired her, because now you have a claimant who was lying about what they could or couldn't do, and then what did the court end up saying?
The court ended up saying that they didn't believe that Hartford was arbitrary and capricious, which basically means that they were not unreasonable in denying her claim, and she lost.
Okay. So in terms of the services that we offer, when somebody has a field interview request, obviously we've helped hundreds of people where we actually attend via phone or video or live the interview request, and we prep the claimants as to what they have to say or don't have to say. We let them know everything they should expect during this interview, and then we continue to protect them with their claim moving forward if they're already on claim. Because when they request a field interview, they're always on claim already, unless it's possible. Sometimes they do it during the application process. So, I guess what to take away from this case is really not only dealing with just how do you handle Hartford, which we can help anybody with, but video surveillance. Always tell the truth about what you're doing, don't exaggerate, and always assume that you have been seen on video, because the problems develop, like for this lady, she didn't tell the truth. Had she told the truth, it wouldn't have been as bad and it would have been manageable in terms of bringing her lawsuit. But the fact that she didn't tell the truth about what she could or couldn't do on video, then the level of pain she's complaining of, the level of difficulty bending, sitting, standing, walking, whatever she's doing, also is not going to be believable. So no matter what stage your claim is at, feel free to call any of the attorneys at our office. We're happy to always offer you a free consultation. We can help you anywhere in the country, and we look forward to the opportunity to speak with you.